1, 2, 3, 4. Oh man, so funky. What is that crazy little high thing that I did on the bass that is so funky? We're gonna figure it out right now. I'm glad you're here. Let's talk about how to add some funk into your playing and how to build grooves where you venture into this higher register and we discover what that elusive high register funky thing is that happens on the bass. It's this guy. I know it is. Okay, so this is something that you've probably heard on, classic funk, soul, R&B records. It's this thing that, like, you hear it and you, as the bass player, just feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and you go, oh, what's this? So we're going to talk about that right now. So, essentially, it is a 7th chord, a dominant 7th chord, played higher on the neck. If you don't know what that is, this is a great reason for you to go and learn some scales and arpeggios and learn about different chord qualities. Bass players need to know this stuff. We just do. It just helps us be better musicians, and that's really what we want to do. Is we want to play music, but we want to play bass. We can be bass player musicians by knowing our chords and our scales and our arpeggios, all those good things. So, to figure out what we're doing, I'm going to say we're basically just playing in the key of E. I'm going to find my open E, my E here on the 7th fret, and I'm going to get familiar with this E here up on the 14th fret. This guy, super important. Next, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to learn the notes that are in an E7 chord or an E dominant 7th chord. This is that funky bluesy sound. It's most of James Brown's catalog, and it's our root, our 3rd, our 5th, and our flat 7. I'm sure you've heard this sound before. Now it's important for us to know what these notes are because we're going to go find them higher on the neck. So we've got an E, we've got a G sharp, a B, and a D. So I can go up here and I'll orient myself and I'll find my E. If I want, I could play this lower E and maybe play a scale, play that flat 7. And I say, okay, well, here's my root note. The 3rd is here. And because I can play the 5th here, that's cool. But I ran out of strings for the flat 7, so I actually have to play it here because it's a D. Again, the notes are E. We have our G sharp, a B, and because I don't have a string here to play the D, I'm going to play it here. Now, this funky, awesome high thing on the bass is actually just the 3rd and the flat 7th of this E chord. So, I'll omit the E, and I'll just actually instead play the flat 7th and then play the 3rd. So I've got a D and a G sharp. It kind of sounds a little dissonant when you play the two separately, but when you play them together, it sounds pretty funky, especially if you do. That's a great thing to do, just to get familiar and get comfortable with going from the E in this register up to this chord. Just play a groove. And there you have it. Now you get comfortable doing that jump. Now let's take a look at the groove that I was doing at the top of this video, which was essentially me playing over a 12-bar blues in E, but bringing a lot of funk to the table. My main structure for the groove was the root, the 6th, and the flat 7th. this is enough for you to have a good time. Then I notice I have some space in my groove. So in that space, that's where I'm going to choose to put a little something something. So the first thing I'm going to do is this, where again I'm jumping up. I visualize my E here, but I don't actually play that note. I play the minor third, G, and I do a little hammer on into the major third, that G sharp. Again, it's a little dissonant, but that brings the funk. And because I land on this note, it's a chord tone and it sounds great. You could just do this too. But then I throw the little chord in. And I'll choose to do this usually every other phrase. So the first phrase, second phrase. You don't necessarily want to overdo it. You know, the cool thing about this is every time you hear it, you're like, wow, what was that? That was awesome. And if you just hear it over and over and over again, if it's part of the groove, that's cool too. But if you want it to kind of sneak in and be a really special moment, maybe you choose to play it just once in a blue moon or every other phrase. You can kind of pick and choose where you want to place that. Sometimes it's nice to play something really simple. Again, here I'm kind of just, instead of going up, just playing this part of the phrase twice. So anytime I go up to the higher register, it's extra cool. You know, you gotta make people wait for it and then deliver the punch of awesome funkiness, and there you have it. So the next thing I do is I transfer this concept to the other chords in the blues progression. So if we're in the key of E, I know that's my 1 chord. When I go to my 4, it's going to be an A. But instead of playing here, I'm going to go catch it down here. And I'm going to play the same groove, the root, the 6th, and the flat 7 in relation to A. I'm going to find my minor third, little major third thing that I play in that first section of the phrase. And instead of having to go high up on the neck, I can actually find it right here. Here's my A, minor third, major third. So this is right here. And to find that chord, the super awesome, funky, high register bass thing, I'm going to go to my A here at the 12th fret. I'm going to play my chord tones, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, and I'm going to again choose just the 3rd and the flat 7th, and that is going to be my chord here. It sounds extra good when you slide into it. It's just awesome. Could just do that all day. And there it is. Then we'll go back to E. Now, one thing you want to notice is when you look at where these fall on the fretboard, they're actually really close. They're really similar. They're not the same thing. Like, you don't play this over to both the E and the A chord. One thing you can do, though, is say, oh, well, these are the notes in E, but these are the notes in A. And it turns out they're just a half step lower than each other. So that's one thing you want to be really aware of. You want to make sure you play the right chord at the right time. It's tricky because the two things are just a half step off from one another. But when I play the E chord, I'm here with my first finger on the 12th fret. When I play the A7 chord, I'm here with my first finger starting on the 11th fret. So make sure you get that. You can kind of hear if you had the root note. There's my E. There's my A. E7. A7. So just be mindful of that. That's a trap you don't want to fall into. It's not exactly the same thing. They're in slightly different places. So there we have it. You can kind of finish out the groove. You can play to the 5 in the chord progression. 4, 1. And we complete our 12-bar blues. But the big takeaway from this lesson is that, like, the high register awesome funky thing is actually just the notes of a 7th chord, a dominant chord, picking and choosing certain notes, the 3rd and the 7th of that chord, playing them in this higher register of the bass. And that's that super funky, awesome thing that you've heard on funk records. So if you dug this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and check out my website, ryanmedora.com, for more educational goodies. You can also support me by heading over to my Patreon page, and you're going to find more videos, tab, notation for things over there, plus fun writings and things like that. So please hit those sources up, check out the links below, happy practicing, and keep it groovy.